In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And about the same time that Obama and Castro, last I checked, not exactly our friend, they were doing the wave together, there was an explosion. ISIS was blowing up an airport in Brussels. You remember this, Noam, right? You may remember there was a brother-sister combination out of New Jersey, local kids, good-looking kids. Not that it matters, but they were. And they were both killed. And Barack Obama couldn't care less. Kind of like when Foley, the journalist, was beheaded by Jihadi John and ISIS. And Obama was annoyed they bothered him on the 9th hole on the golf course. That's your great black Jesus, Barack Obama. But the point is, he buddied up to Cuba. Years later, they're still doing it, the Democrats. They're still doing it, especially Jayapal, who's a ardent anti-Semite and a terrible rep out of the state of Washington. And I'm glad to see that a Cuban-American Congresswoman, Nicole Malliotakis, is calling them out. She wants investigations. Nicole, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. Good to be with you, my friend.
Nice to have you back, too, sweetheart. You got tickets for June 14th?
Actually, it's funny. I guess they're doing some type of lottery.
Is that right? Because I know they're giving, out of the 500, 250, I think, go to the military. And now you're left with only 250. So I'm only kidding. I'm actually more concerned about this Cuba story. I'm glad that you want to see some investigations.
Can I just say one thing, Sid? Sure. You are no longer allowed to request any tickets after you were a no-show at the State of the Union this year. After Mike Lawler and I head over heels, we actually went so out of our way to get you a ticket, and then you didn't show up. Unbelievable. And now you're going to request tickets for the UFC? You've got to be kidding me.
So, of course, I didn't show up because it was a 37,000-inch snowstorm. But you know what's funny what you just said? So 2 weeks ago, Lawler sends me this invitation to come to Rockland County because the president is coming. And I said, listen, Mike, if you put me somewhere in that crowd where I can't see him and talk to him and touch him and feel him, I'm not coming. And he said to me exactly what you just said. He goes, wait a second. You have no leverage. Last I checked, me and Nicole tried to get you to Washington, and you screwed us. He said, just come. It'll be fine. As it turned out, of course, I did have a chance to shake hands and speak with the president, but he said the same exact thing that you did. So I'm never going to live that down, am I, Nicole? That's it.
Yeah, you're officially off the list, okay? And don't blast us next year when you don't get tickets for the State of the Union, okay?
Oh, my God. That is funny. I am coming straight to you next year, just so you know. This fight that you want to put out there with these Democrats that are buddying up to the Cuban folks. Tell the listeners exactly what that is all about and exactly what you're worried about, Nicole.
So right around the time that our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and our great president said that they were going to push this regime to make changes. Remember, 67 years, the Cuban people, including my relatives, have lived under oppression. They have been starved. They have been treated as slaves. They make about $20 a month, and they're treated as slaves for the government. If they express themselves in any way in opposition to what the government is doing, they go to jail, they get beaten, and in many cases, people have been murdered. There's no freedom of press, there's no free and fair elections, but also they're a national security threat to us because they are working in cahoots with Iran, with Communist China, with Russia, all our adversaries. They help these terrorist organizations like Hamas. So, and they are 90 miles from our shore. So they've provided, base of operation for our adversaries, and including spy capabilities. And, this is a serious issue, and this is our moment right now where we're trying to get regime change, not just to bring freedom to the Cuban people, which my family would obviously love to see, but because they are a threat in this hemisphere. And what happens, you have, at the same time that this is going on, you have Jayapal, and you have a member, Johnson, from Illinois, Jonathan Johnson. They go to Cuba on taxpayer expense. They go on a congressional delegation trip to go meet with the communist regime to talk about how they could undermine our government and avoid sanctions. Now, President Trump tweeted an article this morning where I talk about that they should be investigated for treason. This is unbelievable that they're doing this. And by the way, the speaker needs to cut off any travel to these adversarial countries. This is, I think it's crazy that this is happening, and they should not have been there. Yep. And it has to be investigated.
No, it reminds me of when that idiot from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, went to visit that gang member. Right, in El Salvador. He goes to visit the gang member in El Salvador, also going against what the Trump administration is trying to do, which, is trying to keep Americans safe every day. But you're right. I do think it's treasonous. I'm glad to hear that Trump actually retweeted what you wrote this morning. And I like what you're saying about Mike Johnson, too, about the travel. Do you think that those guys will do something about this?
Well, I'm certainly going to speak, to the speaker personally about this. But look, I do believe that we're seeing Treasury, by the way, go after Code Pink, go after Hassan Piker. But Code Pink is another organization that is heavily funded by communist China, and they again are here undermining our country, putting out propaganda to undermine our policies. They've met with the leaders of Code Pink, have met with not only the communist Cuba regime, they've met with Iran, they've met with Hamas leadership over the years. And so, and the thing with Cuba is that it's obviously there's an embargo, there are sanctions. And so it's not just like you're going to meet, people go to communist China, but we still have relations with communist China. With Cuba, there's an embargo, there's sanctions, it's different. And so that's why I think that this has gotten very much out of hand. You saw Ilhan Omar go a couple of years ago, and they come back basically blaming the United States for the problems in Cuba when it is the communist regime that has starved and tortured its people. Now, obviously, what's going on right now has exacerbated it. It is worse because oil is not being let into the country, what has happened in Venezuela. But it's not the fault of their problems are the fault of obviously communism, and the socialists in Congress and the communists in Congress don't seem to recognize that. They still want to bring those ridiculous policies here to the United States. Let them defend why the Cuban people are earning $15 to $20 a month when there's billions and billions of dollars that are kept by entities in the regime, and the leadership, the communist leadership, live like kings. Okay, they have tons of money. They live like billionaires. They are billionaires. And meanwhile, the people are suffering and don't even have access to food, to medicine, and to basic necessities.
Nicole Malliotakis, of course, of Cuban descent, as is the aforementioned amazing Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, as is another guy, I think, running for president in 2028 that I like a lot, out of Texas, Ted Cruz. So a lot of amazing Republican folks that come from Cuba. One more on Cuba. We just did this in Venezuela and took out Maduro. It was one of the great things that any president has ever done. Forget about Trump, has ever done. And we're not going to have to see the same firepower, obviously, to do what we did in Venezuela in Cuba. But how far do you want to see, Nicole, America go to make sure that whatever operation they do succeeds in Cuba?
Look, the human rights crimes committed by Raul Castro are awful. He's responsible for the murder of countless individuals, but there's a particular situation. The reason why he was charged by the United States government, they killed 3 American citizens, 1 permanent American resident, on a humanitarian mission back in 1996. Every president since then has turned a blind eye. President Trump refuses to do that. The DOJ has charged Raul Castro, and we should bring him to justice. Now, the guy's 94 years old, so if it's between, having him come and sit in a jail for a couple of years and actually getting them to use this as leverage to get them to flee the regime and allow for people to organize and create political parties and have free and fair elections and just have some type of say in their destiny, I prefer that we see, use this as leverage to have regime change. And this is why it's so crazy that Jayapal is going over there. And actually, at this time where we're trying to put pressure and drive the regime out, you have members of Congress who are actually going there to try to give them a lifeline. It's just insane.
It's crazy. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, let's cover this closer to home. I know you've been back, you back the blue, and you've got legislation out there, back the blue legislation to protect our federal law enforcement officers. We see what's happening, Nicole, every day out there in Newark, New Jersey at Delaney Hall, and we don't want this to turn into Minnesota where Preddy and Good died. But again, this narrative coming from the left that ICE, or NICE, as Trump calls them, they're out there killing people and wonderful people like Preddy and Good as if we dragged them out of their homes or church, and that's why they died that day. We know that's not the case. They were instigators. They didn't deserve to die, but they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And for the most part, overwhelmingly, ICE does amazing work getting rid of horrible people, deporting them, finding children. It's not even close. The numbers point to an amazing job by ICE, yet all these Democrats vilify them every day, demonize them every day, and it's putting these officers' lives in danger. You want to change that, don't you?
Yeah, in fact, my legislation is safer for everyone involved, right? Protesters want to protest. They need to stay 15 feet out of the way of law enforcement doing their job. That's all federal law enforcement. I'd love to do it for, local guys. NYPD would love this. But the problem is, obviously, as a member of Congress, we can only reach on the federal level. There is similar legislation, by the way, at the state level. But what I will say is that this is a common sense piece of legislation. People want to protest. They have that right. They do not have the right to be agitators and hinder law enforcement when they're trying to do their jobs. And so this is safer for everyone involved. And I hope that we can get some traction. I've already spoken with Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan about this issue. I think he likes the idea because it makes sense. But, this goes to a bigger issue here. These guys do not want to cooperate, the state people. Our governor, whether it's New York's governor or New Jersey's governor, our mayor, they want to do everything they can to make it impossible for ICE to get criminals off our streets. Look, Laken Riley's murderer was actually arrested in New York and was released back onto the street, went to Georgia, killed Laken Riley. You had the poor 82-year-old man who was killed, shoved in front of a subway by somebody who was here illegally. Again, this was completely preventable. When these people are arrested and they have criminal records, and you have the Democrats going out of their way to release them from jail through a back door so ICE can't get them, now ICE has to go on the street and find them. And so if they don't want this type of stuff playing out in streets, then they should cooperate and be somewhat reasonable. I mean, it's just completely insane that we're protecting our government, our state, Hochul, primarily, and this mayor are actually protecting these individuals. And then you have these judges, by the way, that are helping them, again, escape the back door of the courthouse. We're talking about criminals. I'm being specific about, these criminals. And what does Kathy Hochul do? After multiple people have been murdered, whether it be in an arson fire, shoved in a subway, or murdered like Laken Riley, what does she do? She doubles down. And now the Democrats in Albany changing the law once again to make it even harder for any local governments that do want to cooperate to turn over these criminals, like Nassau County under Bruce Blakeman. She's prohibiting that.
Yeah.
And so it's a sad situation. And I think that if we had more cooperation from the city and the state, you wouldn't see this type of escalation that we're seeing right now.
It's a sad situation for the whole state. I mean, thank God, Nicole, for people like you, and I mean that. I think it's terrific. I really do. You and our friend Mike Lawler and a few other law folks here, but the mayor, you wouldn't even say his name moments ago. You said this mayor. And the governor, she's a complete disaster. And as long as you've got that 1-2 punch in this state, I'm sorry, we're in all kinds of trouble. I mean, I saw you, like everybody else, opine on the fact that this creep Mamdani didn't come to the parade on Sunday. As a proud Jewish man, I didn't want him there, but that's not the point. The point is, it's not whether or not Sid Rosenberg wants him there. It's the fact that this mayor should have been there. This parade was not in Jerusalem. He hates Israel. Fine. This parade was not in Jerusalem. It was not, Bibi wasn't the grand marshal. His police commissioner was. He cannot make one legitimate excuse why he wouldn't go to a parade on Fifth Avenue in New York City, whether Israel's name is on it or not. It was not an Israeli parade. It was a parade celebrating Jewish people in his own city.
The only mayor in the 61-year history of this parade, Republican or Democrat, that has not shown up at the parade. I think particularly now at the height of anti-Semitism that we're seeing right now, where we're leading the nation. Another sad stat about New York. We're not just leading the nation when it comes to high taxes and driving people out. We're leading the nation now when it comes to anti-Semitism. And these are a result of the policies of this mayor, of this governor. And it really, I thought, was very striking. And I thought it was a wonderful contrast to see that the police commissioner showed up, that the speaker of the city council showed up. So those are two citywide leaders that were present and showed a big contrast with the mayor. And again, you had Mike Bloomberg there, you had Eric Adams there. It was good to see both a Republican and Democrat former mayors participate. But I think it sends a real clear message to the Jewish community where this mayor stands. And in a way, like you said, I don't think he was missed much.
No.
But I do think that, somebody who supports the BDS movement, who basically stood with Hamas until the very end of his campaign when he finally condemned them. And then he also said he was going to arrest Netanyahu when he came to New York City. I mean, we know where he stands, unfortunately, and this is what people voted for, and now we're stuck for the next 4 years.
3.5, thank God.
3.5. Counting down the days.
All right, last one, 60 seconds. The great Congresswoman out of Staten Island and Brooklyn, Nicole Malliotakis. Where are we with the reconciliation with the budget?
Well, we're in D.C. today, and we're going to be meeting and talking about what the next step is. I mean, I was disappointed that the Senate went home, and we're waiting on the Senate, basically, to send us the final bill to fund ICE, to fund Customs and Border Protection. They do have funding right now, but they need more money, obviously. We have the America 250 coming up. We have the 25th anniversary of 9/11. There's the World Cup. You have a lot going on, a lot of activities, and we need to make sure that they have money to do their job. Now, the DHS is fully funded, but obviously, with the amount of people that Joe Biden had let in, people that were on the terror watch list that we caught at the border, hundreds of them, you have millions of people that have gone undetected into our country. We don't know who they are, where they are, or what their intentions are. And then you have the Democrats on top of it, making it so much harder for people to find criminals and potential terrorists. And so I think that, we need to get this done as quickly as possible. Now, in Reconciliation 3, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but my committee, Ways and Means, we oversee tax, and I'm already working on provisions that we could potentially help get in there if there is the opportunity. One of my bills I just introduced yesterday was a bill to increase the exemption on the capital gains tax for seniors who are selling their homes. A lot of seniors hold on to their houses, and they want to downsize because their children have grown. They moved on. They need a smaller space. It's a lot of upkeep and expense for a senior citizen. And so my bill would actually give them an opportunity to sell their homes and protect their nest egg, allowing a new family to move in, allowing them to do what they want to do, which is downsize. And so that's a good bill that I hope we can get there. It's very tailored for seniors, but we do have one that actually increases the capital gains tax exemption for everyone as well, because that hasn't been modernized since 1997. It was never indexed. It was never increased. And now it's at, if you earn $250,000 profit on your sale of your home, anything above that gets taxed. Over $500,000 if you're a married couple. Here in New York City, obviously, my district alone, the average sale price is about $700,000. So a lot of people build their equity. That's their life savings. That's their nest egg. And they don't want to be taxed on it. And they're right. They shouldn't be taxed on it to the extent that the government is doing. So we're hoping to provide some relief to build on, what we were able to deliver in the first package, which was obviously the SALT relief, as well as the senior bonus deduction, which was a bill that I drafted that helped return the money paid on Social Security back to 51 million seniors across the country. And so, we continue to look for progress and ways to help seniors and tax-paying Americans who work so hard and should keep their money, not give it to the government, as we see hopefully our state people will match some of this stuff, and we could see that added relief on the local level.
It's a great job, Nicole Malliotakis, as always. Great job here on the radio. Great job in D.C. Great job here in Brooklyn and Staten Island. We love you, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thanks, my friend. Take care.
You too. Nicole Malliotakis right there, the amazing Congresswoman out of Staten Island and Brooklyn.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?